Welcome to my channel. I'm Louise Fletcher and I help artists. There we are, good. And so are we on the taster group? There I am, good. So if I pin to featured. Hi, Anne. Oh, I can't hear you. You muted.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't know I had company today. That's amazing. I thought I was doing it on my own.
No, you've got a coach with you on all of the sessions.
Excellent. This is how much I know what's happening on my own.
It doesn't matter. As long as Jamie knows, it doesn't matter.
I know, exactly. And we all know what we're doing. So I'm extra happy to have company.
Okay. So you're expecting to be on your own until I've popped up?
Yeah. I thought we were doing coaches on the...
No, she's put them in on this as well.
Brilliant. I must have said to do that. So that is...
Okay. I can go if you like.
Hi, everybody. Glad you can see us on Facebook. No, I don't want you to go, please. Stay.
Okay.
Let me just... let me just check that. I can see people in YouTube. Excellent. Lovely to see you all coming in. And I am just going back to check on Facebook. I've got so many tabs open here. I need to close some down that I don't need because otherwise I am going to get very confused. Right.
Do I need to get my phone out to check?
It might help if you have a chat.
I'll go and get it. Yeah. Irene's just sent me a message. Get you to check something. CC it said, but I didn't read it quickly enough.
Yeah, I've done that.
Get her to check confirm CC.
Yeah, I've done that. I've put it on Zoom. I think that might mean it comes up twice on Facebook. I'm not sure. I don't
Going for my phone.
Yeah, okay. Nice to see everybody coming in while Anne goes to get a phone. I am just looking at all the comments. Hold on.
Coach with you on all of the...
Hi, Olga, Melissa, Susan, Noreen, Christine. We're a minute or two early, so we're just getting ourselves organized. Sybil, Olga, Olga again, Marinka, Jane, Maureen, and I'm missing people because there's so many people coming in, so I'm just scrolling through. But consider yourself greeted, whether or not I said your name. And over on YouTube, the comments go even faster. They just fly in the chat on YouTube. So hi, everybody on YouTube. Really appreciate you being here. What we're going to do today and on each of these calls is that I'm going to have a little chat and Anne will chip in if she's got anything to say about what I'm talking about. I want to reiterate the exercise and talk about the learning from each exercise that we do on these live chats. And then we're going to pick out some comments to answer. But we're going to, just so you know, stay away from answering any comments about what kind of paper we need or anything kind of simple, practical questions that you can just email us at fyjteam@gmail.com or ask in the Facebook group, because for other people who really want to know kind of more technical questions or really talk about the emotions that came up from the exercise or any of that or what they learned, it can be frustrating to hear me keep answering the same questions about materials. So I will definitely not be answering any of those. So don't ask those. Just ask questions that you think, questions that might really be useful to other people. So not questions about tape, not questions about paper, not questions about anything, just those basic things. And I'm seeing questions like that come in, and I'm sorry about we can't answer them on this call, but you can email us if you need to know or ask the Facebook group. Sue has a question, and I'm going to get to what I want to say, but this leads me in. Sue says on YouTube, I think my lack of technique is undermining my joy. What are your suggestions? And what I would say there, Sue, is it's not your lack of technique that's undermining your joy. It's your desire to be good that's undermining your joy. Because, of course, when you're learning, you don't have all the techniques down, and that's not to be expected. But if you think about it, if you fully accepted that, yeah, I'm not very good at the moment because I don't know what I'm doing, then what would you have to be unhappy about with what you make? You would be open and able to learn from the experience and gain a little bit more knowledge. So the way Anne learned her technique, the way I learn my technique, the way you will learn your technique is through trial and error. And the only way you can feel free enough to do the trial and error is if you're not trying to make something good. And that is the whole point of this 8 days. And that is what I'll be reiterating over and over again. I just did want to say something before I start talking about that in any more depth about the group. First of all, what a wonderful group. If you're in the Facebook group, it's an amazing group of people. We've never had a group that big on Facebook before. There's amazing kindness and support and enthusiasm. But occasionally, there has also been some quite insensitive remarks and some quite impatient remarks. So what I want to say about that is just the way life is these days. People seem to be more irritated and impatient than they were before. Not most people, but some people. If you receive an unkind or an insensitive comment from someone, or one that feels unkind and insensitive, even if it isn't, I want you to know that it's not about you. It's about the person who made the comment. So if you say, I'm having lots of emotions about this exercise, I'm crying, and someone says, oh, can you just not talk about emotions all the time? It's not about you, and it's not really anything. It's about them. They don't like talking about emotions for some reason in them. They find it uncomfortable. Your emotions are triggering their uncomfort, and they are now saying something to you to get rid of the horrible feeling. I just want to say, and also if you're the person who's having the horrible feeling, that's valid as well. But when you experience that from someone, it can be upsetting. And I just want to say that art is all about emotion and feeling. And so we're going to get lots of emotion and feeling in the group, and it's okay to express it. If you're going through something difficult, it's okay to express it. And almost everyone is kind and sensitive to that. And when somebody does get impatient with you, it's not about you, it's about them. And if you are one of the people who gets impatient with that talk of emotion, I would just say, can you just scroll by those posts and focus on the ones that make you feel good and respond to those? Because this is an emotional process for a lot of people. It has to be. If anybody watched Ted Lasso, the TV show, the psychologist on that show said to Ted Lasso, the truth will set you free, but first it'll make you feel like shit. Apologies for my language. But that is the case. If we have a lot of hang-ups, it does make us feel bad at first to face up to them. The joy is on the other side of facing up to that. So anyone who is facing up to that and experiencing those, I'm really proud of you. Keep going. Another quick note, I wish I could comment on everyone's posts, but Facebook has already banned one of my lovely moderators for commenting too often. Facebook thinks we're spamming if we comment. I know that's happened to you, Anne, as well, hasn't it?
It has last year, yeah.
Yeah. And I can't afford to get banned when we're right in the middle of this event. So I'm being very sparing in the amount of time I spend commenting in Facebook. So you'll see me pop in and make a few comments and then stop. And it's not because I'm looking at far more things than I comment on. I'm thoroughly enjoying seeing what everyone's done. I just want to show you something. So let me just pull this up. Go to Facebook.
While you're doing that, Louise, can I just remind people, if they've got a question, to type question in capitals at the beginning of their question and then ask the question.
Good idea.
So we can see them.
Good idea. Let me just share my screen. I just wanted to show everybody this. This is the Facebook group. In the back end, I can just pull up images. I don't want to pull up people's individual posts because that's singling people out who might not want to be singled out. But I wanted you to just have a look at the images that are coming out of that first assignment. and see how different they all are, from the colors that you chose to work with to the style that you chose to paint in, like this person who used a lot of lines versus say this person who didn't use a lot of lines, much bigger marks. These are the choices that we're making that define our style. So when people say I don't have a style, you already do. It's already inside you. Look at the difference between this person and this person. I just picked two that were next to each other, and they both had exactly the same instructions. So they're right there. Oh, I can't believe I asked people not to come to my house. They come anyway, and my dog sets off barking. Hold on, I'll just shut the door.
My dog starts barking if anybody visits when I'm videoing anything. It's terrible.
That's my neighbours. So the difference is amazing. And that is what is so exciting for us when we teach this, to see it already coming out. So you don't have to worry that you don't have this inside you. You do. So let me just Anne isn't prepared for what I'm going to talk about, so she's getting this sprung on her a little bit. But I wanted to say a few things about the first assignment. The first is, somebody asked the questions, can we get instructions for how not to overthink? And I wish that was possible. I wish it was a way to put it into a few words and just give it to you, and then you were fixed. No more overthinking. And I'd be so rich if I could do that. But I can't do it in a few words, but I do think I can do it over a week. I do think I can help you over this next week to start to notice when you overthink. And that is the first step. It's just about noticing. And that is what this whole experience is about. You did that exercise yesterday. And if you posted your image in the Facebook group, one of us might have asked you, how did it feel? What did you enjoy? And we're asking that because a lot of times people are posting their reaction to the result. They're saying, I made this, I like it, or I made this, I don't like it, or I made this, I'm going to cut it up and frame it. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But we're interested we're not interested in doing 8 days that gives you some pictures to frame. We could do that, but that's not as exciting as what we are doing, which is we're interested in having you learn about yourself and start developing your artist voice. And to do that, you need to be observing the process within yourself and understanding what's going on within you when you're doing this. For some of you, it was pure joy. You were just having fun. There were no problems. And it might be the first time you've painted like that. I know it is for many of you. So then you've learned that what happens when you just stop trying. For others, it was more difficult. You were noticing feelings coming up inside you that were telling you you're wasting time, you're making a mess. This is not a valuable thing to do. You're doing it wrong. And all of that was arising inside you. And I'm so proud of you when you post in the group, oh, I noticed this happening, because that is all you ever have to do. You can't change it all in one day, but you can notice, oh, that's interesting. I tend to get very tense. I wonder what I'm tense about. Timothy had made a post. I singled this out just because it's a perfect example of what we're looking for. Timothy posted, I enjoy gestures that create circles, semicircles, and wavy lines. I like white space. I really like spatter. I usually overdo things. I'm not sure of when to stop. For once I was comfortable putting my paintbrush down, I had fun. So in his post, he's real, and many of you did this, by the way. I'm not just one person. Many of you noticed what you were enjoying. I didn't specifically give you that instruction, so you didn't do it wrong if you didn't notice that. But I just want to point it out now that as we go into the next assignments, really spend some time just observing what's going on inside you. It's a bit like when you meditate and they tell you that you have to notice the thoughts that come up. This is the same thing. So notice as well, when you look at the work in the Facebook group, notice that some of it feels more full of life than others. And that is where the artist has really let go. You can just feel it. You can identify it as you go through the group. You can just say that person really let go. That person was still constrained and tight. And that's not to pick on you if you're constrained and tight, because that's where I was a few years ago. It's to say, just notice it, because that's how you will move forward. Oh, one thing I do want to add as well, maybe you could say what you think about this, Anne, after I say it, but it only occurred to me today to say it quite this way, but when we are judging ourselves, when we paint, little judgments like, oh, you've used the wrong color. Oh, that looks a mess. Oh, I don't like what you did there. Think about how that level of judgment is affecting what you do every time you go into your studio. Every single time you go to make work, that little voice is there telling you you're getting it wrong. Think about how that's affecting what you do when you paint. Do you know what I mean, Anne?
I do know what you mean. I'm writing questions down. I'm thinking that it's a bit like when you're beginning to drive, you're absolutely useless, aren't you? You're fumbling, you can't think, oh, I've got to push the clutch, I've got to push the brake, I've got to steer, I've got to look in my mirrors, and it's all overwhelming. But really, after you've learnt to drive, it's so easy because it's all in there. And this is a bit the same because, particularly if you're a beginner, you can't know everything at once. And I mean, I don't know everything, and I don't think you know everything, Louise. It's the excitement of learning and developing ourselves that pushes us to find out more about our art and our lives, really.
Yes.
And what you've just said about noticing, I've had a question from Stephanie. Still trying to find ways of quietening areas without just blobbing and some white paint ideas. And I know what Louise will say to that, having done this course so many times.
Go on,
try
then.
it. Try it. Just try something else. And it's every time I make something, when I'm doing it, I might think, oh, I'm going to put a big blob across, a big smear across that. And when I've done it, I think, why on earth did I do that? I hate it. So I make a mental note not to use that tool, not to throw paint at the paper. I like to be refined in a way. So it's just all the time you're collecting this information.
Yeah.
And someone else has asked already today how to take visual notes of what we like and dislike, because she likes a visual reminder. So once you've done your painting, you can photograph it, print it off tiny, stick it in your book and write what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, why it feels like you, why it looks as if a stranger's done it. And you begin to refine your preferences, because that's all it is, what you like, isn't it?
Yeah, both of us, I think, keep art journals, sketchbooks, whatever you want to call it. And often I will photograph like the tiniest corner of something. And just that's the bit I liked. The rest of it I didn't like. I do a lot of like the squares exercises we've done. Most of those for me will get ripped up and just a few bits stuck into my art journal. I really like this effect. I discovered this when I tried it. I like this little composition or whatever it is. But most of them, when I do that kind of exercise, I end up on a bonfire or can't go in recycling because it's covered in plastic, but they end up going away because I don't. And this is something that you get with experience. When you're new, you think, oh, I've made something nice, I want to keep that, it's nice. After a while and experience and learning, developing and growing, you realize, oh, I can do that again. It doesn't have to be precious. Not every time, by the way. I think Anne will agree. Not every time you paint is nice, but you do know you have an endless ability to create, and that's not going away. So you don't feel quite as precious. But it's okay if you feel that way about what you've made today or yesterday.
And you can always paint over things. If you make a real mess, I put it on one side. And, when I'm looking around for paper, I'll pull that out and paint over it. It's always there to be enjoyed, isn't it?
Yes.
It's just learning all these little increments as you go.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
On Facebook, Rhonda said, I find 30 minutes too much. I want to stop. My mum's voice in my head saying, don't wreck it, stop now. So I freeze. And partly I would say, I wanted to say this on the time limit. If you found 30 minutes too much, try doing another one where you only do it for 10 minutes or however long you feel like, because some people paint well in short bursts. If you found 30 minutes not enough, try doing an hour and then look at them and see and compare them and see which you like. You might find that after the hour you feel, I messed it up. I was better when it was 30 minutes. Or you might find, you know what, I want to do it all day. This is about you and what you prefer. And the 30 minutes in the initial assignment is to stop you from overdoing it initially. But for some people, they go so fast that 30 minutes is too long, and that's okay as well.
There's a question from Jilly, and she said the same thing. Yesterday's exercise, for the first 10 to 15 minutes, the paint flowed and I had fun. Then I started overthinking. So it's really a case of you knowing your limits. So when you suddenly think, oh, what do I do next? I'm fed up with this, or I don't know what to do. Stop. Pull out another piece of paper if you've got lots of paper, or a bit of scrap paper. And paint on that and then come back to the first one. I like working in long spells. I can't do 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're all different. So that's Jilly's question.
Yeah, I find I can do long periods of time, but I'm sure I'm better in short spurts. I think if I only have half an hour, I seem to move a painting forward. And if I have 4 hours, I seem to make everything worse often. So we all find that whereas some people do need a good 8 hours time really focused. And again, it's all about you. So often we think as artists, oh, it's right because so-and-so does it that way. I was like that a lot at the beginning. There were artists I respected. They were teaching. They were telling me their way. I thought that's the way they do it and they're good. So that's the way I should do it. And in a couple of cases, it's only in the last year that I've started to realize I like a completely different process than they taught me. And that's okay. It's not that theirs is wrong. It's just that it's wrong for me. Yeah. And
there's a fabulous quote here from Claire. Creativity is not a switch you can flip. It's a window which you open to let the breeze come in.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very true, that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jackie on YouTube. I'm just following YouTube questions because I think you're looking at Facebook.
I'm looking at Facebook.
If you've got any questions about tape, please either put them in the Facebook group, or if you're not in the Facebook group, just message us at fyjteam@gmail.com, because we're trying to keep the video calls focused on more large questions that will benefit everybody.
Yeah. Some questions you can ask in the group of other students. I've just had one.
Exactly. Lots of people.
Can you recommend any books on how to read abstracts? Well, you could ask in the group. Otherwise, you'll only get opinions from one or two of us. If you ask it in the group, you'll get lots of opinions. So if it's something like that, not related to the course, I would say post it in the group for other people to comment on it.
Interesting. Jackie says, I discovered facing a white surface makes me panic and forces me to apply paint as quickly as I can to eradicate it. And then I can relax into the painting. And one thought I had about that, I mean, it might be fine that that's the way you do it, Jackie, because, for example, I paint in many, many layers. So it doesn't matter what goes on in the first layer. But another way, if you don't paint that way, if you're someone who feels that way, some artists just cover the whole canvas or paper with one color and then get started. So it's fine again if that's what makes you feel more comfortable.
Question from Karen: how do you know when to stop? When you're not having fun anymore, put it to one side. So
yes, this is so important what Anne just said. Fun, having fun. It sounds nuts because we don't live a life where fun is the guiding principle. Maybe we should, but mostly we don't. We are producing things. We are following rules. We are doing what other people want us to do. We are looking after people. Nobody is you know, your spouse, your boss, people don't come up to you and say, what can we do to make your day fun today? That's not the driving priority. And yet when we make our art, it's a totally different thing. Your art is the only place where you're the boss completely, and you don't have to consider anybody else. And you can just do what feels good to you. And when you do what feels good to you, your artwork gets better. It's magic, really. It's like the greatest gift we can have is to make our own authentic artwork, which means the stuff that feels good to us, that feels easy and flowful and fun. And we're giving a gift to other people when we do that, because we make amazing work that they want to buy, own, look at, benefit from. It's magic. We're very lucky, I think, to do what we do.
Question from Michelle. How do you separate the critical thoughts from the thoughts that are about, oh, I like that, or that needs more colour or more white? And it's just, well, Louise taught me this, but you're driving a car and that critical voice is in the back seat, and you just tell it that you appreciate its comments, but you're perfectly all right and you don't need any more. It's just, you put it to the back of your mind. But I did start to begin with thinking of it was the voice behind me or the voice on my shoulder. But as the time goes on, you suddenly get Louise on your shoulder telling you positive things. It's like you just say you don't need any advice from it. You're safe, and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think it does. And I think if it's a voice telling you you're rubbish, why did you put that white there? You're useless, why did you put that blue there? I think put it in the back seat and keep it quiet. But if you're enjoying yourself and thinking, I'd like to put more blue here, I think I'd like some white space, and you're having fun, that's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you should just do it. I think that's where we get a little bit hung up, and it's hard to explain until you've had a lot of practice doing this, the difference between thinking in the wrong way and thinking in the good way. So any thought that feels good to you is fine. Any thought that feels negative to you, that's the one you need to ignore. So like I say, oh, I'm really enjoying myself, but this painting's got a bit dark. I think I want to lighten it up. Oh, that looked good. Or that didn't work. I'll try this. Anything that feels light and positive is good. But I put this dark on here. Oh, you moron. Why did you do that? Look how stupid you are. You shouldn't even be an artist. You should forget about that. You don't want.
But that's coming from a place of fear of what other people will think, I think, as well.
Yes, exactly.
Am I good enough to be in this group? Will people think I'm stupid because I've done such rubbish painting? Nobody's judging you. The only person judging you is you.
Yes. There's that fabulous Andy Warhol quote where he said, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know the exact quote, but he said, make your art, put it out in the world, let people decide if it's good or bad. While they're deciding, go make more. Yes. It's not up to you if it's good or bad. That's like, it's not relevant to you. You've just got to make what you make and then let other people figure it out. And if they don't like it, it doesn't mean anything about you or your art. It just means they don't like it. I don't like some really famous paintings. I wouldn't hang them on my wall. I wouldn't thank you if you gave them me for nothing, and they might be worth millions of pounds. You too, I'm sure all of you can think of famous artworks that you don't like. So if we don't like, say, a Picasso, well, Gauguin, I don't like Gauguin paintings. I'm sure that's very ignorant of me. I don't like them. If I don't want a Gauguin hanging in my house, does that mean Gauguin was rubbish? No. So does it mean you're rubbish if your husband doesn't like what you made? No. So
there's another question from Jean which relates to this. I find myself wanting someone else to tell me that my work is good. No matter how much I like it, I want others to validate me. And how do I stop that? The only person that matters is what you like. If you like it, there will be others that like it. You can't rely on anybody else's opinion, because I could say it's too dark and you were trying to express, light clouds, but nobody knows what you're trying to express in your paintings, and they have their own thoughts behind it. They make their own decisions of what it's about, and if they like it or not. You can't influence that.
Yeah, and the thing is about validation, I think, how do you stop wanting that? I think it's a practice. It takes time. You've got to work at it like anything worth doing in life. You can't change who you are in one go. But what I find helpful to remember is that external validation never works, right? When someone says, oh, I love your painting, it feels good for a few minutes, maybe. Then someone comes along and says, I hate your painting. That feels bad. If you are constantly relying on the outside input, and we know that there's nothing that everybody likes. So someone will like it, someone won't like it. You are constantly on a roller coaster back and forwards, asking other people to give you what they can never give you. I have won prizes in exhibitions and been happy for a day, maybe an evening, most, and then forgotten all about it the next day. I know people who are very, very successful, and then they struggle because now I've got to do that again and I can't do it again. So it never stops the desire for more validation and to keep proving yourself. And the only way it stops is when you decide, when you realize this is never going to give me what I'm looking for, and you kind of figure out what it is you are looking for, which takes time. So in my case, I realized I was looking for validation for my 7-year-old self, maybe, 5 to 10-year-old self, who was full of creativity and ideas and wanted everyone to look and see what I was making. And no one, and as a kid, my generation, in those days, you were told to pipe down, stop showing off, stop bossing everyone around, all that stuff. And so I learned that, that wasn't wanted, but I still wanted that validation. So I went and tried to get it more and more and more. So I learned that as an adult, I was still looking for that validation, which I can just give myself. And then I don't need it from anyone else. Yeah. So there is maybe one person in my real life, one friend who likes my artwork. My other friends and family don't understand it, don't really like it, don't have no interest. If I was looking for validation from them, I'd be so unhappy because they don't understand. So what's the point of asking them to validate me? I can, go to people who I can just put my artwork out there and see if anyone wants it. And if they don't, I like it.
Yeah.
So that's a long answer, but
this is one that's probably relevant to a lot of people. Marnie, I worry about the cost of paper and the paints. This makes me want to work small and takes away my joy. Do you want to answer that? Do you want me to?
Yeah, and I also have one here. Remind me, I want to answer one about composition. Okay. So cost of paints. This is a tough one. Again, it's something that you've got to work through if you want to be an artist. Imagine trying to be a joiner and saying, but I don't want to waste wood. So I'm going to have to get it perfect first time because I don't want to use any wood. You can't do that. I want to be a cook, but I don't want to waste any food by making recipes that don't work. Chefs make all sorts of bad recipes before they get to a good one. If you want to do this, you have to use materials. Sometimes we're ingrained in us as children. It's always childhood stuff, not to waste things. Is it a waste? That's what I want you to think about. How is it a waste to do something that brings you joy and fulfillment? Are you so unimportant that you don't deserve to have joy and fulfillment? So, but it is something you have to work through and just put a little bit more paint out each time and just work on it. Because if you want to do this, you're going to have to use paint. And it kind of ties into this composition question as well, because Robert asked, I consider the composition of all things automatically, the arrangement of objects on a table, etc. Should I quiet that voice or embrace at the start? So I'm a bit like that too. I like my objects on a table to be off to the side. And when someone comes and moves them to the center, it drives me nuts. I've composed those nicely, leave them there. But when we're doing exercises like we're doing in this course, I don't think it matters if you're aware of composition, Robert. If you're, if you understand composition and you love it, I don't think it matters. I don't think you can actually get rid of the knowledge that you have. So when I experiment and play, I can't help but do some composition and some, put colors together that work well now after so long practicing. But what I do think is the idea of these exercises, and this goes for wasting paint as well, it's about experimenting to find out something you don't know, to surprise yourself, to do something, out of the blue. And the only way we can do that is if we let go of the desire to make something good. So in as far as the composition concern is about making good things, I would let it go, because we're not bothered about that for the next 8 days. This isn't about that. It's not that we never want you to make a good painting. It's that we want you to make better paintings in the future because you've learned how to let go of the desire in the immediate. It's like long-term gain or short-term gain. So if you're having fun and you're enjoying playing with the compositions, go for it. If you find it's stopping you from experimenting, that's where I would say it becomes a problem.
There's a couple of people asking about mixing the paints. They say, I hate waste. And when I mix the paints, I never like the colours I've mixed. Have you experienced the same thing? Have you found a way to balance mixing the paint in a quantity you actually need? And it's all trial and error. You just got to practice working out what to do, and keep your paint dabs in a book somewhere, and you note down what colours you've used.
Yeah.
But
and also
the only paint that's wasted is in the tube, isn't it?
It's exactly. And if you've made too much paint, if you've mixed too much paint and you're going to finish for the day, that's why I use the Stay Wet palette that is in, if you look at the catch-up page that we send out every day in emails, there's an introduction to acrylics, and I showed my Stay Wet palette because my paint stayed wet until the next morning, so I don't have to waste anything. But when I wasn't using that, I would start some more pieces on paper to use up the paint. I would work in a sketchbook or several sketchbooks. I would use it all up. You're not wasting it as long as you are doing something creative with it. And as far as mixing up colors you don't like, again, how can you learn what you do like unless you're willing to mix up colors you don't like and then realize, I don't like that? Try and see, when you mix up colors you don't like, what's the common thread between? Is it that you don't like muted colors? Is it that you don't like bright colors? Is it that you don't like things that tend towards red and orange? Or is it more that when you get into the greens, you don't enjoy it? It's all part of finding your own voice. Some of these questions, like, I don't like waste, so I want to get right to the right solution, is absolutely it's the reason that brought you here. It's the reason you're not getting where you want to go, because you cannot learn how to do this without using the materials and making an awful lot of mistakes. 50% of what I do, at least, is a failure. More than 50% of the time I spend painting isn't successful. They're usually layers underneath what ends up being successful. But if you could see inside my studio, I wish I was in there, but I don't have good enough internet. But inside my studio, there are so many bad paintings at the moment. It looks like a 5-year-old went in and painted. But I know I'll get there in the end. They're just not working at the moment.
Someone's saying, should we be commenting on other people's posts in the group? Because we're saying people don't need validation. So what's the point of us commenting on other people's posts?
When I comment, I'm commenting, I'm validating. I do think that people need validation, but not for making a good painting. So I'm saying, well done for sharing what you shared, or well done for doing the work, because a lot of people join this course and don't do the exercises. So well done, bravo. I love what you said here. I love what you shared. I love what you realized. Personally, I'm not fond of commenting on, oh, I love this painting, because I feel a bit like, yes, but some people just really love what they've seen and they're enthusiastic and they want to share. So it's really up to each person, I think. I have a question here from Art Journaling with Lainey. So I guess it's Laney. How do you define voice, finding your voice? So this is only my definition, and I am not the oracle of the world on this, but the way I think of it, I think of style and voice as two different things. I think I have a style of abstract landscape, which is evolving and has evolved over the years. So my style changes. I think voice is, to me, much deeper than that. It's my ability to honestly express myself without restricting, pretending, hiding, constraining, being something other than what I really am. So just like when you say a person's found their voice in life, I think you mean they found their authentic expression of themselves, whatever that means for them. And I feel it's the same in art. So I feel it's when you are expressing yourself authentically, it might not be considered good by someone else, but it's coming from you and it's honest and genuine, and you're not dissembling or putting on an artifice to impress anyone. And by the way, when you find your voice and you paint like that, you do impress people. So it's like you impress people when you stop trying to impress people.
I didn't believe all this when I started. So there's people doubting that what you're saying is correct.
Yeah.
I was a bit skeptical, but I mean, it's so true. Everything you say, I've had most of my teaching with Louise, but what she says is so right. And it doesn't happen overnight. At the end of this course, you're not going to suddenly not want any validation. You're not going to be able to paint a masterpiece. But as long as you've created some work you like, that's all that matters. That's all we're aiming for. You know, it's a slow process and it never stops.
It never stops. That's the thing, because when some people in the group, when they started and they were beginners, they were saying, oh, there's too many experienced people here for me. I feel nervous. But what you don't understand is the experienced painters are here because they feel they're not getting where they want to get to. And we always are at that stage. So for me, what I find is I get to somewhere, I have a little period of feeling successful at that. And then I feel bored because now it's easy. And then I need to do the next thing. And then I'm really bad at the next thing, hence the pile of bad paintings in my studio, because I'm now trying to level up to something else and I don't know how to do it yet. And I have to allow myself to make that mess, or I can go back to what's comfortable and easy, but that's not fun. And as artists, that's our entire job, is to find new ways of expression. So we're always going to be dissatisfied and we're always going to be pushing forward for something new. So you think that when I get to this level, I'll be happy and everything will be fine. You won't. You'll just be looking at someone else and saying, I want to get there. And that's okay. But it means you can relax now and enjoy where you are.
Someone's saying they're a representational painter. Oh, I've lost it. Didn't enjoy the exercise at all, as I'm not used to daubing paint on without it being something, either a still life or a landscape. I found it very difficult to let go. So would you have different advice for a representational painter?
I would say partly it depends if you were unhappy with your feeling that you couldn't let go. So you are not going to like every exercise that we do in this free taster course, or some people might, but generally we have a preference for one or the other. And we have a variety of exercises. They're all designed to push you away from making things that are beautiful. But if you were happy making things that were beautiful, you might not want this course. This might not be for you, right? You might, if you were joyfully painting, let's say still lifes, and they're really perfect and you're very proud of them and you were having fun, this isn't the course for you anyway. And you probably will hate what we're asking you to do. If you do want to push yourself in, but you just didn't like that assignment, that's okay as well. That's something to know. Yeah, I don't like doing this. But I wouldn't be so dismissive by saying daubing paint, because there is a reason why we're asking you to do this. And it is about experiencing the feelings that come up for you when you are letting go like that. So if you have feelings that you recognize as feelings that constrain you in other parts of life as well, I recognize this feeling of not wanting to make a mess. That also applies when I do this and this and this, and it's a problem for me. Or if you just feel like, actually, I recognize this feeling of liking things to be beautiful and I'm comfortable with that, maybe you don't need to do these exercises, and either is fine. There's no right or wrong. I just had a question here, and that I just wanted to go back to, but I think I've probably lost it because YouTube goes so fast.
I know. It's amazing, the comments, and a lot of people aren't putting question at the top. So as we're flicking quickly through, we don't notice them.
P. Maroney asked, Louise and Anne, do you journal with words as you are working?
I do.
Yeah, I do too. How does that look for you, and what do you do?
Well, I would sit down and look at my journal, sketchbook, whatever it is, to get me in the mood for painting, like a warm-up exercise. I get everything ready and I look at what I did last in my journal to sort of remind me of what thread I was on and following. And then I do some painting, and then if I like it, or even if I don't like it, I photograph what I've done while it's still wet. And then I go into my journal and I might write, must buy some more. I mean, these are silly things, but must buy some more cerulean blue because I'm really liking the effect I'm getting with it. Or I realise that I want more space in my painting, just general things. It doesn't really matter. Or if when I'm doing it, I have an idea that this would look great in a different colour palette, I'd write a note of that. And then the paint's dry and I come and do some more on them. So it's like a continual backwards and forwards. And then when I finish for the day, sometimes, not always, I will sit and write in my journal.
Right.
Just to finish off the day.
And mine is quite different in that I will have a period of time when I'm journaling and thinking about my work and trying to get to what the point of it is or what I'm trying to express. And then I might go weeks without doing it, and then I might do it again. And it's all about what helps us. Louise asked, can we be artists if we don't know what we're trying to express? Which is a fantastic question. These exercises are about beginning you on the journey of finding out what it is you want to express, but it is a journey. Like, there's a reason that my full course is 12 weeks. And that is intensive, 12 weeks intensive learning. Some degree programs are 3 years, and then even after that, you're still developing. So, but can you be an artist? Absolutely. You can always be an artist. You are an artist if you're here, in my opinion. You were born an artist, and you are now developing your artistic skills and language and understanding and knowledge. But you were born an artist because you're here, and that you have that desire inside you, in my opinion. But I do think that the deeper understanding of what you're trying to express comes with doing the work and doing the experiments and making the paintings, and it comes over time. And as an example, it took me 3 years to work out that I wanted to express my feelings about the landscape where I live. Then I realized, oh, it's not my feelings. It's not the landscape I want to portray. It's how it makes me feel inside. So then my landscapes became more abstracted. That was another 2 years before I realized that. And then it suddenly dawned on me, what is this feeling inside, and why do I feel that way? Well, to go back to childhood stuff, which it always usually originates in, we used to go on holiday to this area camping. And as a kid, that was the only time I wasn't told I was too much of a tomboy, I was too loud, I was too bossy, I was too whatever. I was just allowed to roam around in the woods and do whatever I wanted. And now I think my paintings are much more about that, and about that sense of not being able to express myself when I was in the way I wanted when I was a young kid. So it's actually, I think my paintings are like, look at me, like I wanted to say when I was 7, look at me, look at me. But I thought they were about landscape. So it's layers. You just develop it as you go. It doesn't all come at once, and it can't come unless you're really doing the work of being an artist, which is this constant inquiry, painting, enjoying yourself, learning, etc. TC says, I often feel like I always have to have a theme with a focal, so I find the exercise difficult. So good to notice that. Good to notice that you always feel like you have to have that. And maybe you do to be happy. If that makes you happy and you have joy when you work, then you don't have to change anything. It's only if it's a problem that you're noticing it now and you can start to inch towards having some fun. We're just going back to have a look at more questions. Camille says, I often see figures in my paintings and start to analyze what it means, like in art therapy. Sometimes I'm frustrated because I'm thinking I'm not able to highlight some of the forms. I'm not sure I understand the question, Camilla. Maybe you mean you don't know how yet to highlight some of the forms, but that is simply... The thing about art is what we're teaching you in this taster course is how to experiment, how to learn to think like an artist, how to learn to let go and have some fun with paint, because that is what will move you forward. But we also, when we teach the full course, get into all the principles of art making, like composition and color and tone, and how you highlight a form in a painting and how you create shape in a form and how you, all of that. We can't do all that in 8 days, unfortunately. So and you can learn that in other places too. There are lots of courses where you can learn that kind of thing. There's a lot of technical stuff to learn about art, but what makes the way I teach different is I don't believe you should start with all that stuff, because I think when you start with all the rules and principles of art, people get tied up in knots and don't know what to do. They're trying to get it right. And I think you've first got to learn how to let loose, have fun, not care about the result, so that you can then learn the principles, take them on board and experiment with them and get the most out of them. Did you have a question, Anne, that you were going to say?
I have. I've just lost it again now.
That's all right.
This is from Jenny. Will we be using the work from this lesson, or can we cut it up and play with it?
A good point. I was going to mention at the beginning, we won't be doing anything else with this. And that's a very deliberate choice, because I want you to have done something for no reason at all, except to do something. You can carry on with them if you want to. You can make more if you want to. But I will not be instructing you. We're going to move on and do something totally different tomorrow. Barbara has a great question. You tell us to paint without thinking, but watching your demos, you do a lot of pondering and changing things around. So how do we get the balance between intuition and considered judgment? Not in this taster course, Barbara. So I think you mean demos that you watch me do on YouTube, which is unrelated to this. So I have been painting seriously for 10 years. And when I say seriously, for most of that time, almost every day. So I have a lot of experience now. And so yes, there's a lot of thinking going on, and I balance intuition and thinking constantly. And when I teach people, I don't want to keep saying in the full course, but that is part of what we're teaching, how you do that. But the first stage is you've got to learn to be able to do the free part before you can learn how to balance it with the thinking part. So if there's a phrase I would say for this taster course, it's don't try to run before you can walk. There's a reason why we're teaching this freedom. It's because it is literally the foundation of everything that comes after. If you can learn to be free and to learn to analyze your reactions and to learn to understand how you feel about what you're doing, you are on the road. And everything you could learn about composition and color and thinking and intuition and all that is easy. It's easy compared to this part. This part is the challenging part. Zarod says, what do you consider a failed painting? For me, if I don't like it, that's it. If I don't like it. What about you, Anne?
I'm exactly the same. I know when it's finished, but I do tend to leave it on one side a bit and look at it, over a number of days to see if it's finished. But no, if I don't like it, it's not finished. I'm ashamed of it if I don't like it. I wouldn't want, if I didn't like a painting, I wouldn't want to show it to Louise because I don't like it. So I'm not happy with it. So I wouldn't show it to anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hate it when people come in my studio and pick up things and look at them when it's not ready. Christina says, it was difficult to not pay attention to the masking tape. So I was more seeing 6 small paintings than 1 big. Is that okay still? Anything's okay, Christina, but I would urge you to have another go. And this time recognizing that you're finding it difficult. And the reason you're finding it difficult is you're trying to see paintings when we're not making paintings. And that's okay, because you're observing now that that's what's happening. Maybe cover the paint up first. Cover the tape up first so you can't see it anymore. Like I'd urge you to allow yourself to do what you don't feel like you can do, which is cover up that tape. Remember, it's 1 piece of paper. If you don't like what happens at the end, but the reason I have you cover up the tape is that it makes much more exciting edges when we go over the edge. So when we're painting within a square, we keep it constrained within that square. When we go over tape, we get surprises around the edges and it makes things so much more exciting.
Can I say keep your tapes if they're beautiful as well, because you can use them for collage, or I stick mine in my journal just to sort of decorate it a bit more.
Yes, Joanne says, my mum always told me, don't start that, you won't finish. Maybe I should just go ahead and not finish to see what would happen if I didn't finish. Yes, Joanne, please do, over and over again. I heard something on a podcast the other day where someone said, this is unrelated to art, but the person said, in my marriage, I don't say X, Y, and Z because it's like stepping on eggshells around this person. And the other person said, why don't you go stamp on the eggshells and see what happens? And I just really love that, because if we're tiptoeing around a problem, we're not dealing with the problem. Just go stamp on the eggshells, and then what's the worst that could happen? At least something will move forward if you step on the eggshells. So I love trying, and I love that you observed that, Joanne, because you're seeing what's playing in your mind while you're working is a voice telling you, you won't finish this. You'll never. Why are you starting something you won't finish? But in art, it's okay to start things you never finish. In fact, it's good, because they're all studies. It's just called a study if it's not finished. And I make lots of them.
You might also think that the space around your study has made a nice painting a month down the line or 6 months down the line. Our taste changes, we develop.
Yes. And Atomic Elf, I love your name, Atomic Elf, on YouTube says, just because we might not like what we did during the course doesn't mean we shouldn't share it, right? Because right now we're focused on learning, not the outcome. Exactly. And that's why I said at the beginning, we're pushing people when they post some paintings, if they don't describe how they felt, we're nudging you a little bit to say, how was it? What did you think? How did it feel? Did you learn something? So important, because the result is neither here nor there. It's 1 piece of paper in your life. Even if it's brilliant, it's not going to change your world. But the thinking and the learning while you're doing it is definitely going to help you. And Barbara says, I find abstract frustrating. How do I know when it is done? In this exercise, Barbara, you can't know it's done, because it's done when the timer goes off and I said stop after 30 minutes. How can you know when an abstract is done? Is when you know what you're trying to say with it, when you know what you want it to communicate. And that is a question bigger than an 8-day course. But in this exercise, it doesn't matter.
Someone's just asked, it's not a question actually, but will we have any homework tonight? Well, there's no official homework, but if you've you've had some thoughts about what we've discussed on this Q&A, that's the sort of thing I would go and write in my journal. I've learnt tonight that there are no rules. I can do what I want. And if an idea pops up in my head, the answer is to try it.
Yeah. And I would add to that, if you have become aware of something from this conversation that you were holding yourself back when you did the assignment, or if you just really loved it and you want to do more, go have another go at it. I always say to people, make 10 more. Like, if you really want to learn something, make 10 of the thing you're doing. If you're going to paint a portrait of someone, paint 10 portraits of that person. And that might sound extreme, but each one you do will push it a little bit further and make it a little bit more exciting. So if you found, wow, half an hour wasn't enough for me, go do one for an hour. If you found I only wanted to do them for 10 minutes, go do a few for 10 minutes. If you found, I realized now I could have pushed it more, go do that. So a combination of the journaling and having another go would be excellent. And I do these squares still. This is a thing I always do.
I do too.
There's been a question from a couple of people that came up about how I get into the creative zone. And personally, I'm very pragmatic and down to earth with my artwork. I come in, I get my brushes out, I get painting. I don't have any spiritual practice around getting ready. I don't light a candle. I don't meditate. I know some people do. What do you do, Anne?
No, I don't meditate. I look at my sketchbooks. I've got hundreds, well, not hundreds, but I've got loads of sketchbooks here. I don't even see them. But I just look at my sketchbooks and I look at old ones.
Yeah.
Because I did a video somewhere and I went back, was it 30 years from when I first started sketchbooking and flicked through a few. A lot of people are asking to see your journal.
To see mine?
Well, to see what a journal looks like.
Well, if you are coming along for the full course, that is a huge part of it, and you will get looks into everyone's books and all of that stuff. But again, we've got to keep ourselves focused on a small part. I mean, it'd be so easy to try and just answer everyone's questions, make a video about that, but it's really has been carefully structured to try and give as much as we can in a short amount of time. So I think that's getting us a little bit off topic, even though we're happy to answer about it. But I'm just having a quick, Jojo says, how do you stop comparing your art with other people's art? So we're going to talk about that in this mini course. So hang in there for that one, but we talk about it a lot more in the full course. But basically, again, it's a practice. It's a mental practice where if I was to decide tomorrow that I'm going to be, well, I was at hospital the other day with my mum talking to a surgeon. If I decided I'm going to be a surgeon, I've decided, it's not for me. I'm going to learn to be a doctor. Admittedly, I'll be 70 before I qualify to be a surgeon, but I'm going to go for it. And so am I going to be as good as that surgeon I met with my mum on day one, or even in year 3 of my medical education? Of course not. Even when I qualify, I won't be as good as him. It's ridiculous to compare ourselves to other people because they started at different times than us. They have different advantages than us. Maybe they have more time than we do to practice. Maybe they have more money than we do, so they don't have to work full time. Maybe they've just put a lot more hours in than we have. Maybe they were given some innate gift that we weren't, some ability to draw something realistically without having to practice first. Doesn't mean you can't learn to be as good as them, but it'll take you some time. So comparison, when you think of it that way, is utterly ridiculous. If I was to compare myself to Anne, where is the comparison? We have different years of experience, different amounts of time put in, different styles of painting, different interests. Your comparison should be to yourself last week, last month, last year. Are you moving forward? That is the key thing.
Definitely.
Quickly looking for any more. I mean, I know we haven't been able to answer everyone, but I'm trying to catch some.
I think I've got got the main ones. I mean, there's some like, what do we need to have ready for tomorrow and things, but I mean, it's all in the schedule. Someone's asked, I think this puts it into context, will we be giving comments and thoughts on our individual posts?
Will we be giving
yes
some thoughts?
I mean, we just can't, can we?
No, I mean, we are going through, and as I mentioned at the beginning, we can't comment on everyone's because we would get banned from Facebook. So we are modulating. Poor Carlene already got banned and has now had to start a new account.
She's banned for 6 days.
Yeah, and she just got that for commenting on your posts and being a good moderator. So we are rationing ourselves. We are all in the Facebook group. The coaches are doing shifts. The moderators, who are about 20 people who are volunteering, are also in there. We're commenting on as many as we dare. And we're paying attention to everything, as I think you can tell from this chat, because we pulled a lot of the things that people are discussing. But we cannot personally respond to everyone in the group because we would all get banned and then there'd be nobody left to help you.
Yeah. And Facebook doesn't show us everything anyway, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It's very selective what we see. So it's just, but again, the only person whose comments that matter are your own anyway. And you will learn how to do that over the week.
Atomic Elf has this question. Is there a way for people to submit questions before the live session? This might make it easy for you and ensure all questions get answered. So we could never answer all questions in the free course. There's 50,000 people. We want to reach as many people with what our message as possible, so we don't restrict people on the free course. When we get into the full course, it's a totally different story and everyone's question gets answered. Every single person who takes the full course gets their question answered, and there's many ways to ask us a question in that. Here we're kind of pulling out the questions we spot and the ones we think are most helpful to everyone, and unfortunately we can't get to everyone, but we do get to most of the main ideas that matter. I think
we are replying to all the emails that are sent to us at the team at findyourjoyteam@gmail.com, but we're not, there's no point in sending images to us there because we're snowed under as it is with answering everybody's emails. We've had about 3,000 already, haven't we?
Have we? Yeah. And because we won't comment on your images because that's not what this is about.
No.
Let's just have a quick look. We'll do a couple more questions if I can find them. And then we will let you go and enjoy your day or evening. Pam, all the information about the full course will come at the end of this free course. And the reason for that is that we want to keep you focused. And I know I've referred to it, but I'm only telling you that because I'm trying to say that to create a free course like this and teach as much as you can in a few days, you've got to be discerning about what you share. And a lot of the stuff that I would love to share, I can't fit in. And that's why it goes on to that course. So you will get all the information soon, but let's stay focused on what we're learning here. Amy says, I'm afraid to journal because as a child, I never had privacy. So having an art journal feels very private, but that privacy could be violated. I've got a little tip for you, Amy. What I do often is I write in my art journal, and if it's private, what I write, and if I don't want anyone to see it, I paint over it then and leave it to dry for the next day. So I got the benefit of writing it. I got the realizations and the learning from it, but now I've covered it up and no one can read it. I find that quite fun. Just make a nice painting over the top.
Yeah. Jean has just made a lovely comment. I think it'd be useful for people. I just discovered that Louise's YouTube channel has dozens of videos that answer so many questions about technique and approach that were asked in this chat. It's an amazing resource. So go to YouTube and follow Louise.
Yeah, and you just have to look up Louise Fletcher Art and you'll find me on there. I'm just going to go check YouTube one more time. Yeah, we've been working hard on that YouTube channel this last year, so we've made a lot of videos. Cynthia, I'm so glad you found this supportive and helpful. She says, I have lots of fails and now I feel okay about that. You should feel fabulous about that, Cynthia. Honestly, if you are failing, it means in my mind, you're doing it right. If everything you do is lovely and perfect, I feel like it means you're not taking this as far as it could go, because we never do anything worthwhile easily. So if you're failing, it means you're getting it right.
Yeah, you're pushing yourself.
Lou says the bans on Facebook are because you're only allowed to post up to 100 times, or they think you're spamming. I didn't know it was 100 times. You think they know in a group that maybe there's a reason why certain people who are marked as moderators might be commenting more, but I've
got to the end of my questions.
Yeah, I'm just checking. I'll just give me 1 second because we've got another couple of minutes before.
I've ignored one or two that we've covered already earlier on.
Yeah, I'm just looking on YouTube as I go back up because they move so fast. Diana says, is it okay to go back to the exercise and add to it? Yes, absolutely. It's okay. And notice, Diana, when you do, is there a difference between how you felt doing the initial 30 minutes and how you feel when you start trying to make it into something? Because you might notice that you start to get tense and stiffen up and don't have as much fun, or you might enjoy it just as much, in which case you've got a new way to start paintings. Robin says, isn't it done when you know how it makes you feel? So for me, it's done when it feels good. When it feels good, it's done. So Robin, if that's when it's done for you, that's when it's done for you. And we're all different, but yeah, I suppose that's a way of describing it for me too. I just know when I look at it, oh, I like that. And you know what? 2 years later, I look at it and think, nah, not so keen on it anymore, because I'm 2 years better. And now I don't love it so much. So that happens as well. Vicky says, most people never comment one way or the other if they like what I've painted, drawn, or cooked. I think I'm just a figment of my own imagination. I think she means in life. That's funny. They should at least comment on what you've cooked for them, Vicky. I think you should demand a comment on what you've cooked for them. Just
put a question on here. I found I love making lines when I did the first exercise with other media than paint. You didn't suggest we do this, but would you mind? You can break any of these rules. It's up to you. If you fancy painting the whole page black, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. If you want to do it, you get this urge to do it, just listen to it. And there's no police in this group, is there?
Exactly. And I'm going to close with a comment from Lou, who says, I love Monet's work. Knowing that he burnt piles of his paintings because he thought they were awful makes me feel okay about my own not so good work. I don't throw them out, though. I paint over them. Yes, I read a thing that at one point Monet was trying to put together an exhibition. It was already 2 years late. It was his water lily paintings. And he was on holiday, I believe it was in Norway, and some tourists came across him in the street stamping on his canvases, just in the street. So he was quite moody, apparently, Monet. So if Monet can struggle, also, if any of you know Brian Rutenberg, I really recommend, and everyone's going to say, how do you spell that? Rutenberg, Brian Rutenberg on YouTube. He's an American painter. His most recent video started with him talking while he slashed up a painting on canvas and threw all the bits away because he didn't like it. And when I talked to him, he told me that 50% of what he made, no, 25%, I'm sorry, of what he made gets slashed up, cut up and thrown away. And he's been doing this for 45 years. So if he can make messes, so can we. And that's it. We will see you tomorrow morning with the next assignment. I'm not going to tell you what to prepare for, and I'm going to let you be surprised when the email comes out. If you don't get the email, just email us at fyjteam@gmail.com and we will get back to you and give you the link. But the emails are going to everyone, but sometimes your email provider filters them out. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's been an absolute blast.
Can I just say one thing? Can I thank the coaches and moderators?
Sorry. Yes, carry on. Sorry.
Sorry. Am I still on?
No, yes, you are.
Okay. Can I thank the moderators and some of the coaches who are in this time zone who've been on answering all these questions on Facebook?
Yes.
They've done a grand job. Thank you. It's made our life a lot easier.
Yes, thank you. Always, you guys are amazing. All of you. Thank you. All right. Take care, everyone. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye. Bye.